in Yemen is keeping Washington on its toes. The situation has compelled the U.S. to tell its citizens in Yemen to leave while the evacuation of essential government staff has also been ordered. In the midst of all this latest development, CNN's Tom Foreman reports intercepting terror communication is not easy.
In far-flung corners of the earth need to talk with each other. They don't pick up the phone. Security analysts say they jump onto the internet using a complicated chain of computer connections. Although no one knows for sure, this is how they believe it works. The parties meet in a private internet chat room where they are extremely cautious, even shrouding their written communications with each other in encryption software, making it difficult to read what anyone is saying in one of these short meetings. Beyond that, they may even send proxies, deputies in a sense, to actually conduct the conversations so that at any given moment, none of the leaders can actually be connected to each other or to whatever is being orchestrated. But it goes even further. Instructions from top al-Qaeda operatives are believed to sometimes be sent by trusted couriers to internet cafes where they log onto public computers, they encrypt the message as they type it, and then they send it through an email account set up specifically for that one message and no other. And minutes later, the whole trail disappears. Some security analysts say this combination of technology, social media sites, and internet anonymity is the backbone of terrorist communications. And Laith Al-Khoury with Flashpoint Global Partners says it works remarkably well.
I think they allow such groups to flourish, and they certainly give the means for possible lone wolves to communicate with actual group and offer themselves as potential terrorists.
Need proof? Prosecutors say the men accused of the Boston bombings used jihadi websites for inspiration and bomb-building advice. Security analysts say Anwar al-Awlaki exchanged emails with the accused Fort Hood shooter Nidal Hassan. And Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is believed to have used a Hotmail account.
Al-Qaeda started with one website a decade ago. And today, we have, at least a dozen Al-Qaeda web forums that host thousands of individuals.
A few years back, when the hunt for Osama bin Laden was still raging, some intelligence forces believed Al-Qaeda was even developing its own intranet that was electronically hidden behind some jihadi websites and accessible only to a few people. Whether they succeeded or such a system still exists, like much of their communication structure, remains shrouded in mystery. Tom Foreman, CNN, Washington.
Now, meanwhile, the U.S. State Department is evacuating most of its diplomats from Lahore, Pakistan's second-largest city. The order was made on Thursday after the State Department picked on what it calls specific threats. It's not clear if the evacuation is related to an ongoing terror threat that shut other U.S. missions in the Middle East. The threat is centered in Yemen, with drone strikes intensifying. CNN's Mohammed Jamjoon has the latest.
Last 3-4 days is just unprecedented, even at a time when the U.S. and Yemen have stepped up their counterterrorism measures and drone strikes have been increasing incrementally over the last couple of years. We're talking about over the last 3 successive days, there were drone strikes. Yesterday alone, 3 separate U.S. drone strikes, as we're told by Yemeni officials. And let's look at this map here to show you some of the provinces we're talking about. Now, there was a drone strike that happened in Madad province. Madad province houses the country's main oil pipeline. It's the part of the country where just 2 nights ago there was a Yemeni military helicopter that was shot down. Officials told us they believed AQAP was behind that attack. Also yesterday, 2 separate drone strikes at different times in Hadramaut province. Now, both these provinces have always been hotbeds for militants, and Yemen is a country where Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, which is the most dangerous wing of Al-Qaeda, has really been able to thrive. It's a country where there are porous borders with rough mountainous terrain where Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula can very easily hide out. And this is a country with a very weak central government. But what's happening now, more than ever, really highlighting the threat level in in Yemen, the concerns by the U.S., by the Britons, by the Saudis, and by the Yemenis as to how much they believe al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula will be able to possibly carry out an attack. Christy?
This is an intense and
While authorities in Canada have filed child pornography charges against 2 men in connection with the case of a 17-year-old who committed suicide. The teenager, according to her family, hanged herself after she was gang raped and bullied online. Karen Ray spoke to the Morning Family in this report.
Headlines around the world. A Halifax teen dead after telling her parents she had been sexually assaulted at a party by several boys. Rehtaeh Parsons was just 16 when the alleged incident occurred. She told her family a photo of that day was being spread online and she was being tormented by bullies.
How fast this destroyed my daughter was just unbelievable. She never recovered from it.
Then this morning, a phone call. 2 males in custody.
I felt like crying. I felt like running. I just felt like, and at the same time, you know, you feel sad because my daughter's never going to know that sense of justice. She'll never know that.
Initially, the RCMP and Halifax police closed the case. Her family, heartbroken, were vocal in their campaign for justice. Her mother said at the time that police failed her daughter.
She wanted someone to believe her. And nobody did.
It sparked protests, vigils, and threats of vigilantism. The province called for investigations into the school board and the local hospital where Rehtaeh was treated in the mental health unit. As the furor grew, a tip came in. Police reopened the file.
The investigators are certainly going to want to take as much time as necessary, and that would go for any investigation, let alone Rehtaeh Parsons, because this was a tragic event. This has been played out in the public.
Obviously, I just want to say how pleased we are to see that progress is being made. I hope this will provide some measure of comfort to the family.
Police say they don't know yet if any more arrests will be made, but with intense scrutiny around the world, they're trying to keep every detail possible under wraps. Carolyn Ray, CBC News, Halifax.
Well, time now to take a look at sports. The European football leagues are getting back to business with 2 leagues getting on later on Friday with the start of the Bundesliga and the league in season. As it is the tradition, defending champions Bayern Munich will kick off as they take on Borussia Dortmund. But will Bayern keep the crown, especially after the Champions League playoff draw, which took place earlier today? CNN's Pedro Pinto has the latest as to who has the toughest test from the draw.
For the upcoming season in the Champions League, because there's a lot of teams out there that have high expectations to make the most important and the most prestigious club competition in Europe, and many would say on the planet. There's a lot of sporting glory to be gained, and there's also a lot of cash. Now, there are 2 ways to get into the Champions League in this final playoff phase. It's through the Champions Way or the League Way. This draw is divided into 2 sections with 4 ties in each section. There's 8 spots left in the group stage of the Champions League. So let's show you a highlight of what we consider are the top games to look out for in the final playoff before the group stage of the Champions League. And of course, the top game is PSV Eindhoven versus AC Milan. The Italian 7-time winners of this competition. PSV won it back in 1988. Fenerbahce versus Arsenal, Olympique Lyonnais versus Real Sociedad, and Schalke versus Metalist Kharkiv. Now, you may be asking, why do Fenerbahce and Metalist Kharkiv have asterisks next to their names? And that's because their participation in the Champions League is still uncertain. They're both being investigated for match-fixing allegations. They've lodged appeals with the Court of Arbitration for Sport, so they have yet to find out if they'll be able to participate in the group stage if they make it that far. So obviously, they'll have motivation to make it through, but they're not guaranteed a place in the group stage at this point. Now, as far as the defending champions of this competition are concerned, Bayern Munich, they have other fish to fry at the moment. They kick off their Bundesliga campaign later on Friday when they face Borussia Mönchengladbach at home. Now, a lot of changes have occurred at the Allianz Arena since Jupp Heynckes led the team to a historic treble last year when they won the Champions League, the League, and the Cup. There's a new manager in town, Pep Guardiola.